All right, guys, what's the story? Martin Condon coming at you here from Martin's World. Guys, I interviewed the NI CannaGuy this evening, and you're about to listen to that podcast there now. And as I was editing it, I realised I hadn't introduced them. So, guys, this evening's podcast is with the NI CannaGuy, Alan Robinson. So, Alan is based above in the north, and he's bringing cannabis education and awareness to the public through his page, the NI CannaGuy. So head on over, give him a like and a follow, and check him out. And I hope you enjoy the interview. Peace. Oh, man, welcome along anyway to an episode of Martin's World. I just wanted to catch up with yourself. I've seen you've a lot of stuff going on up above in Northern Ireland. I've seen you were out with the old Yellowvests there the other day.
It's all kicking off up here. I don't know what protest is on what day. It's just every day is a different one. It's brilliant, but it's a bit mad as well.
It is, yeah. I see Adrian McKenna was on chat about coming down to the Dublin to one tomorrow as well.
Yeah, Adrian's doing all right. So he is. He's not doing too bad, and he's getting a good following down there. The thing I like about Adrian, and also yourself, Martin, is you can relate to the public very, very well with issues that we're all facing as members of the working class. So hopefully the big demonstration tomorrow goes well, and I think there's another one planned for the week after.
Yeah. The one the week after is just the cannabis community then all out and again just calling for the legalization of cannabis because our Gardaí down here have stepped up the efforts in raids since the start of this whole coronavirus. There's been a lot more raids on like even small grows and people getting stuff delivered by the postman. It's quite a common method now of delivery for people.
Yeah, that's happening quite a bit up here as well. We're hearing because, well, basically, I think because the tourist trade has basically come to a standstill. You know, even there's a couple of people up my way. They're struggling to get the cheap cigarettes, as they call it. You know, they've literally just disappeared off the street. So I think cannabis and the likes, it's going to be a lot more difficult for people that were sort of maybe the likes of having a constant supply coming, from somewhere. I think them days are going to be very, very numbered, I think.
Well, as we're coming into winter, I think the old saying in Game of Thrones is can apply here. Like, winter is coming, lads. Like, prepare, get some seeds and start planting them. Like, because we could be in lockdown again very soon. Like, with the way the government and all these health officials are carrying on.
Hey, it's like horror stories now when you turn on the news, and you lads down south are getting it pretty tight as well. I understand maybe you have a couple of counties that are in lockdown again or something.
3 counties gone back into lockdown.
Whoa. Serious?
Yeah, 3 of them. And a lot of it is over like meat plants and stuff like that, like where, again, what's coming to light now is the working standards that some of the employees have to put up with. Basically, the employer is not willing to pay them a decent wage, and then they're not willing to actually put all the money that needs to be put into having them do social distancing and things in these plants, like, because it's a high intensity and work environment in these meat processing plants where they need to process a lot of meat really quick, and it's very difficult for them to change their ways. So it seems like they just had everybody back in working as normal, right on top of each other, and there was outbreaks because a lot of these workers are coming in from places like Brazil. They're living in accommodation where they're living in high density to try to get the rent down and everything. So again, like it's just a circular thing where greedy bloody employers not willing to pay people proper money. They're living in shoddy accommodation, and because of that, and shoddy bloody hygiene standards there, like 20 people sharing a shower isn't good.
No, definitely not. But that's it. I completely understand what you mean. And it does, I know it sounds terrible saying, 10, 15 people in a house, but whenever you aren't making a proper wage, it makes sense, to sort of to spread the cost of things. the factories, there's some factories up here in the north never closed, and their staff have worked right through lockdowns and quarantines, and all they're getting told is stand 2 meters apart. But of course, as you say, whenever you're in these big warehouses and these big storerooms, there's no such thing as staying 2 meters apart from anybody. So it's a hard one to grasp, Martin, because the average working man that's out knocking his pan in so that he can feed his family, he's being attacked here left, right, and centre. He's being told on the news not to go out and not to socialise, but then he's going into work and he's being forced into close encounters with several other people, more or less than 2 meters. And what are these people supposed to do?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It makes no sense what they're telling them. I don't know. Did you see the latest scandal down south here with our own government? The boys and Golfgate is the old Twitter handle there. Golfgate, yeah. The boys have a little golf party a day after they put us back into a restricted fucking whatever you want to call it. But they basically are not allowed to have more than 6 people over, and outdoor events are limited to like 15 people. The boys thought it was 15, yeah, 15, and the boys thought it was okay to have 81 of them. Elected officials, like some of them who decided to put these measures in place, and they just a big fuck you to the public there the very next day. Golf party and champagne.
Yeah, that would Golfgate and highlighting it is exactly what the public need to be doing, because it's politicians like that think that it's us and them. We tell them what to do and they do it. We just carry on and nobody'll notice what we're doing. But I think them times are coming to an end. There's so much rubbish coming out of our First Minister up in the north and the Taoiseach down south. Leo there, he was quoting movies and all there a couple of months ago. And our own health minister up here, he's called Robin Swan. He gave a statement from Stormont saying face masks have to be wore from the start of August. And 5 minutes later, he retracted it and then gave another statement saying, you can wear them if you want. We'll look at it at the end of the month. But this guy's supposed to be the health minister that people are looking for leadership, So even our own government up here, they're showing themselves for what they really are, and they're paper politicians, really, aren't they? It's about time they were just all blew out of the way.
Yeah. Well, they're making it up as they go along. At a lot of them, they're listening to some health officials, but even the health officials don't know what's going on. Like, we seen what was going on there with the World Health Organization in the beginning, but sure, we all know they're owned by China. Like, they've been shown to be caught lying, initially in the beginning when they said it wasn't infectious, like that. Oh yeah, no, people can't spread it to people, and then they find out, oh, actually, yeah, they can.
Yeah,
and it's unbelievable, like what went on. We could have locked China down day one and caught it all up down there and dealt with it, but no, they told lies, porky pies, and this stuff got out. Like, I'm not even going to go into the whole thing about Wuhan and the labs and if it's man-made, and because we could talk about that forever.
You could.
You could. Because I definitely think there is something fishy about the bloody whole thing.
Well, one thing that's been brought to my attention, it was my wee nephew told me, and he says, how do you know what's going on in China? Sure, they're a closed republic. And I was gobsmacked. I was just like, and I was like, yeah, that's actually a good point. Any sort of journalism or news coming out of China, is it coming from China? Is it? So
yeah,
that was a good point. I have a question for you, Martin. I know you're interviewing me. The big main concern up here at the minute is the parents are all freaking out about whether the kids have to wear a face mask in the corridor in their school or the classroom in the school. Now, that's what's going on up here, and everybody has their own point and all the rest of it, but nobody seems to actually be asking, why are we even contemplating sending our children to school in the middle of a supposed pandemic? What would be your views there?
Yeah, I'm contemplating already homeschooling my own kid because of just that. Again, they don't know what's going on. The teachers are scared shitless because at the moment we're being told we can't have more than 6 people in our home and all this kind of restricted bullshit. And now they want to send their kids into school in classrooms of 20 to 30 plus with a
Yeah.
teacher there. And even down south now, our public transport is all restricted and stuff. You know, some of the seats are barred off, but our kids are allowed to get onto a packed bus every morning. Like
Hmm.
there's no restrictions there on the kids traveling to school. So yeah, the whole thing is a mess. Like it really is a mess. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to sending my kids back. They say down here if a child's under 13 that they're exempt from having to wear a mask, but the school
Yeah.
is kind of saying something different now.
Well, schools are funny. Some schools, they're like a law unto their own. I know that schools and some small businesses up here, they're pushing the face masks as uniform, as part of compulsory uniform. So there's a big school up here. It's called Belfast Royal Academy. It's everybody calls it BRA, and they've actually issued the parents with the list, the school uniform list, and face mask is on it. But as you
Oh
say,
shit.
children under 13 are exempt. So, where are they going to draw the line in the likes of a class with 12 and 13 year olds or 13 and 14 year olds? You're going to have half a class wearing masks and half a class saying we're exempt. I don't get it.
Yeah.
And at the top of it all, you have again the World Health Organization, who have said numerous times now that young people aren't as asymptomatic and aren't any risk anyway.
Yeah. Well,
So
I go to the local park quite often with my kids, and man, there'd be close to 100 and so kids just booting around the place, having the crack, not a bother to them. No masks, no gloves. Like you see the odd lunatic parent coming over every 5 minutes with the fucking hand gel. Like, come here, Tommy, come here, and I give you some hand gel. And I'm just
yeah.
like, oh my God, like, what's the parent doing? Like, because fair enough. Like, they only think they're trying to do good because you can see they're terrified, man. People are hysterical and terrified because, as you said it, you cannot turn on your phone now, go onto any of these social media, any news outlets without being hit with some of this scaremongering stuff. Like a virus that, like, apparently has a like it. What is the mortality is like 0.4% or something like that. So
It's mental.
99.6% survive. Like,
Yeah, there's more people dying of the flu every year in the UK and Ireland, and on top of that,
hmm,
they've all had their flu shots as well.
there we
They've
go.
all had their flu vaccines. So,
And you're probably doing the same thing up above there as well that I'm seeing down here. Is nobody has died of the flu since February. The flu has
I'll
been
have to look
cured.
into that.
Yeah, nobody has died of the flu since February in Ireland because it's yeah, essentially if you've a sneeze, if you've a snotty nose and you die of cancer, they're going to put you down as suspected COVID. If you've
Mhm.
if you've a temperature before you die, they could put you down as suspected COVID and add to the numbers. Our own Taoiseach came out and admitted to this, like that. Oh yeah, the numbers are a bit because we've included people who might have died of the COVID virus. Like it's
Yeah,
it's
that's crazy.
it's
It's
mad.
not.
So when we actually look at it, the death rate is going to be actually even lower. Like less people have
Mhm.
died of it if we were to actually really look into the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers changed in our media up here. It's changed now. A couple of months ago, it was reporting on deaths, and then it was reporting on how many people were in hospital. And the news this week is how many cases. They're not
Yeah,
reporting deaths at all, but there's the testing centres, the pop-up testing centres up in the north. There's more and more of them have popped up over the week. In fact, there's one of them down the bottom of my street,
yeah. So more
and
tests have been done.
it's pretty clear, and a lot of people are clicking onto it, that of course there's more cases because there's more testing. But um, one person I was talking to the other day, they pointed out, what are they actually testing for? Because if they're just testing for coronavirus, just for the flu, there's a good chance that they'll get a lot of positive results. They're not actually positive for COVID-19. I'm not actually sure if there is
Yeah,
an actual
no, what
test.
they're doing is apparently is it the polymerase chain reaction test where they're just multiplying a piece of DNA and that piece of DNA then is to confirm whether the virus is there or not. But what they're not really telling you is, yeah, that piece of DNA, as you just said, like it could be another coronavirus that, again, it could be flu, and it tests positive because it has this piece of DNA there.
Yeah.
At least that's my simple understanding of it. I'm not an expert on this, so that's my simple understanding, that they're not basically regrowing the virus, like, and confirming it by identifying it whole, like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh, I can see the virus here. There it is. No, they're only taking a little piece. But as I say, that piece could be found in a couple of other things.
Yeah.
So it's a strange one. I don't trust the numbers, and it's the same thing what you just said there, that there's more tests being done. So of course they're going to detect more. And then when they're releasing the information, then they don't tell you when, like, 25 new cases today. Okay, when were those people tested? Was it 5 days ago? Like, was it yesterday? It wasn't yesterday. Like, because I think our turnaround rate down here is like somewhere between the region of 3 to 4 days. People are waiting to get results, maybe even longer. So
Right. Yeah.
you have to wonder, like, when that person actually tested positive.
Yeah, that's actually another good point that isn't coming up in any of the conversations that I'm having. You
Yeah.
know, the Department of Health up here, they say silly things like, "Oh, the numbers are always up on a Monday and a Tuesday because we have to count in the weekend numbers," and you're like, "What?" You know, what sort of right? So the country's only open 5 days a week. You know, it's nuts.
Yeah,
It
they
is
take it.
nuts.
It's like pandemic, but yeah, we still need our weekends off
For golf, the
for golfing.
they need their
Yeah.
weekend for golfing.
Come here, as we're on the topic of pandemic and all that, the high-demic is coming up for yourselves next week. What's the crack there, man? That's the Donegal, or no, the Belfast Cannabis Group, is it? The BCG.
The Belfast Cannabis Group, they're the muscle behind it.
Excellent.
Northern Ireland's been crying out. They've been crying out for an event, and as you well know, 420 on 2020, it was going to be absolutely huge. I think we'll probably still be recovering now if it had went ahead. So there's a lot of itchy people about, and a couple of the small groups here and there have had wee meetups. You know, everybody is really not too sure about whether to come out or not. And a lot of the sort of cannabis community that I would be in direct contact with, a lot of them would be ill already, you know. So, but this group, it's been months and months planned, and a lot of hard work went into it. And I can't wait for it. It's a 12-hour event. They're running from 12 in the afternoon to 12 midnight.
Excellent.
There's going to be a lot of things on show. The last sort of event these lads done had the dab rigs, and they had the shatter, the wax, the wave, the everything, the hash, and all different ways of smoking it, and you know, rolling it and using it. It's
I think the last event I seen you go to was was it the Smoker Poker? I think they organized. Was that
the smoker poker.
that
That
was in
was
August, was it?
it was. I don't play poker. Like I done sort of the promotion for it. I didn't actually. In the end, I didn't actually go into the event. I did get to the outside of it, but that was sort of the start of the wheels starting to turn with the underground cannabis groups saying, "Do you know what? There's no public canna walk. You know, there was no 420 in the park. Um, we owe this to the people and ourselves to mark 2020 before it's over." So I'm really glad that they went ahead, and
Sweet.
I was more than happy to push their events for them. And as I say, this one at the end of the month, it's a 12-hour event, but hopefully I'm able to chill out. That's the main thing.
That's a long day.
Yeah, I've been so busy, but I'd like to thank the BCG and also Donegal Cannabis Social Club are heavily involved with it as well. And there's groups coming from Derry and Belfast, and also I think there's quite a few maybe coming up from your neck of the woods too.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah, I'd love to come up, but I'll have to go to that protest that's on in Dublin beforehand. But as it's on until 12 o'clock, maybe I might be able to sneak in the back door for the last couple of hours. Dublin's
Well,
not too
Martin,
far from Belfast.
this is the thing. This is exactly my own dilemma because I want to go to the protest too.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah.
well, of course it do. You know, public awareness and cannabis. It's like, you know, but and a lot of the people down there, the likes of Alicia. I know Alicia won't be there, but you know, I'd like to go and sort of be there, you know, to show my support. I know she's stuck in Spain, but I just don't know. I can't make plans. If I make plans, I'm just a nervous wreck coming up, you know, to it. So hopefully, I'd love to be able to make it down to the protest and then up to the high demic.
At
So
the
sure,
right, yeah, that would be good if you were able to make it through. Man, you say it about making plans and being a nervous wreck and shit. Something that's been fucking me over is I've court next month for a joint, for a little joint, man. But
right?
and I got the summons there about maybe 3 months ago. But man, every morning for the last 3 months, like anxiety, like a motherfucker in the morning, just right in the belly, like, ah man, and that thought of that judge and just the day, like, oh, it's killing
Yeah.
me, like, and it's getting closer now. I'm kind of getting excited in a way actually about it. Like maybe that's where the anxiety is coming from. It's like, but I've had Thai boxing fights before, like, you know, where you're getting into a ring and a dude's going to come swinging at you, throwing kicks and elbows and whatever. Well, actually, no, I never fought elbows. I'll take that back. But like, you know what I mean? I didn't have this much anxiety for that, like,
Yeah.
and this is like a judge, like for a little joint, like I hurt nobody, and I stand by my beliefs, like that. What I did isn't wrong, but man, like
Mhm.
every morning anxiety, like it is a motherfucker, like. But
Well,
I
hopefully,
suppose where I was going with that actually is the recent protests that I had myself. Did you happen to catch any of that down here from Cork?
I did see some of your coverage from. You had a bit of trouble with the guards in the park, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they busted us up. They said we were in breach of the COVID regulations. Man,
What?
we had a big cannabis plant there, like, and they busted us up over having COVID regulations, not about cannabis. It was an interesting
That's
one.
That's crazy. That is crazy. The guards in the PSNA, they must be on different. The PSNA don't really no. I don't know if they're scared of getting. Well, they're not going to get laughed at, but you know, there's been no sort of enforcement of social distancing up there at all by the PSNA. The A lot of the legislation that the NI executive would release to us is, you know, when they say mandatory and compulsory, you know, the black and white of it is it's voluntary, it's up to yourself. You know, until there's a law, there's nothing to enforce. And
Fair enough.
the people of Northern Ireland are very quick to point that out to the likes of the constables, you know. So unless I would think somebody is in danger of hurting themselves or, you know, there's some sort of danger, up here, I can't see the PSNI pushing COVID restrictions unless there actually is a law.
Okay, yeah, they have passed bits of legislation down here which has changed it up. Man,
It's nuts. It's
they
crazy.
can enter our house now if they think you're in breach of the regulations of having more than 6 people in your house that aren't living there. So if you've a neighbor who just
Wow.
doesn't like you, man, they could just be a right out cunt and ring
Wow.
in, make a complaint.
That's actually quite bad, Martin. That's bad. You know yourself. You know where cannabis is concerned. You know the police or the guards. They're not going to have an actual cannabis search unit. You know they don't have a room in the morning filled with guys saying, "Right, let's find cannabis today." Out you go. You know it's all reported from the public. So once if somebody reports you or reports anybody to the police, once you enter their system, you have to you go through their system. So sometimes you'll get a guard standing there saying, "Listen, I'm just following the procedures and all the rest of it." But what they're not telling you is Mrs. What's her face from 63 was the one that actually phoned them. So you know, a lot of the times whenever you've a knock at your door, it has been a complaint from somebody. So that's a very good valid point. That's quite dangerous actually.
It is, man, and again, like a breach of privacy. Like you're inside having a smoke on your own, you have to tell you up loud. It sounds like there's a couple of more people in there than there should be. So the cops
Hmm.
have a right now to come and knock at your door and investigate. Like, man, what kind of a fucking police state are we walking into?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
Surely,
so
if they enter your house, then that's the numbers inside your house in the dwelling go up immediately anyway.
But man, this is what I'm saying. I had a lady get on to me last week. She had five male guards and one female into her house, bust in her door at 10:30 at night. She was living at home on her own, and or she was at
Mhm.
home on her own, and having these six people come in, bust into a small house, and again, no masks, no gloves, and all
Mhm.
for a complaint apparently about two plants in the house, two cannabis plants.
Mhm.
And they came and took the plants off her, but they handcuffed her, pinned her against the wall, and all this stuff, threw her into the back of a paddy wagon where it had dried blood in the back of the paddy wagon, dunked with dirty cell in the cop stop, and then
Yeah,
released her onto the street at about 3 o'clock in the morning on her own.
that's disgraceful. That is,
Yeah.
that's disgraceful. You know that at 10:30 at night, sitting in your own house, that's whenever you're supposed to feel safe. You
And
know.
people will defend those actions by saying, Asher, they're just doing their job. But what about now soon when they're just doing their job and they're coming in your door because you have seven people in your house that shouldn't be there? Like, oh, they're just doing their job. As you said, they're just following procedure. Like, and it's
Mhm.
true. But like,
Mhm.
where does the line, where do we draw the line? When do we say enough is enough?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
so you've had no legislation pass up in the North or in the UK or anything, no?
We do have legislation, but it's
It's not
the
really
there's
being enforced.
yeah, it's the likes of social distancing and quarantines and stuff. For up here, it's 1 meter. So up in Northern Ireland, the social distancing is 1 meter. So straight away, and I think 1 meter is your sort of normal personal space anyway.
And yeah,
So the social distancing thing, there's nothing really to be enforced there. And the face masks is the exemption list that the NI executive gave out with their legislation. Um, there's enough exemptions or there's enough reasons on it. Like near enough everybody in Northern Ireland has some sort of PTSD or some form of anxiety or and on top of that, you've people that have asthma as well, and autoimmune diseases. So, the likes of making face masks compulsory, there's a lot of people that can't actually genuinely wear them. So it's not a case of being defiant with some people. It's a case of they're genuinely stuck between why do I should be able to go out into the shop and not have to take maybe verbal abuse or something. So they're looking to the legislation, but the information isn't being given out. All we're hearing in the public is you must do this, you must do that. Instead of saying, listen, if you're unhealthy and you're vulnerable in the community, here's the steps that you should be taking yourself, to
Mhm.
keep yourself safe. But it's completely missing over here. So out in public, out in public in Northern Ireland at the minute, it's a survival of the fittest. To be fair, if you're out there and you don't have a mask, it's now becoming a part where you actually have to be able to stare other people down or be able to defend yourself. But if you're out there, if you're out there without a mask because you're not well, it's nobody's business. So
Yeah.
again, it's the whole effect it's having on the public is completely negative. There's so many different other things you could sort of off into, but the main concern is the majority of the public is going along with what these politicians are saying, but the ones that are finding it the most problematic, they are sitting down and actually looking at these rules and they're finding ways around it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there is definitely an element of kind of divide and conquer, divide and conquer. That basically, you have the mask wearers and the non-mask wearers, and
Hmm.
some of the mask wearers are kind of turning into mask holes where they're being assholes about mask wearing.
Yeah,
I don't know that I hear you say that. Someone else coined that phrase, mask hole. I'm not claiming ownership of it, but
yeah, I
it
can't
was
claim it either. I seen it on a meme. Don't be a mask hole.
yeah, don't be a mask hole. There definitely is people out there being kind of mask holes about either wearing it or not wearing it. If you're going to
Hmm.
wear it, then wear it. If you're not going to wear it, fair enough. Like, but don't question each other. Like.
Yeah, it's bad, especially with the paper ones. You've people that have the paper mask, the disposable ones over their face, and they're maybe wearing it all day.
Hmm.
Or, they're taking it down to maybe talk to somebody and then putting it back up again, and
Yeah.
it's sort of, you're like,
I,
wow.
I have my one here that was made by Alicia Maher's mom,
Hmm.
or yeah, I think it was her mom who made it. But like I have it just handy just in case. Like, but I actually haven't been asked to wear it anywhere I go. And like I was in the shopping center there earlier, and there was about maybe 10 or 15 people inside there. Like I was able to walk around the entire shop without coming in close to anybody.
Yeah,
Like, surely I don't have to be wearing a mask. Like,
yeah.
sure.
Well, if the masks were any good at all, we would have all been wearing them from March.
Man, there you go.
You
That's the
know.
main one. So these are the
Yeah.
questions that we really need to be asking rather than why is fucking Johnny over there not wearing a mask and I have to. Like people
Yeah.
are getting very up in their arms about it, like, and they're misdirecting their energy then at people. You know, again, the divide and conquer. Like you keep the people divided and you can conquer them easily. There's
Hmm.
definitely issues there. Like I don't know what the story is with your politics up above, but ours down here were quite shabby right before this happened. Like literally,
Yeah.
our government were crumbling. Like they were clinging to power. Like we
Yeah.
didn't have a government for the first 3 months of the pandemic. I think was it three
That's right.
months possibly? Yeah, no government. They couldn't agree with a government. So we had
Yeah.
a caretaker government.
Aye, because Varadkar he's past his term, isn't he?
Yeah, he remained Taoiseach, caretaker Taoiseach until they struck their deal there recently, where now
Yeah.
Micheál Martin is our Taoiseach at the moment.
Yeah. The NI executive up here, sure, they weren't even operating for well over a year. And it's all divide and conquer up here. It's all sectarianism. It's all unionist and nationalist, loyalist, Republican, and even them four words themselves, they get amalgamated into one. Where maybe on the unionist side of things up here, maybe Protestants, maybe they're not unionists, but they would maybe even be um, regarded as loyalists just where they live,
Yeah,
so their own personal sort of, everybody's single individual personal politics is, it doesn't matter. You're either green or orange up here, and it's those days are the generation now. Those days are, they're dying out. They are dying out. The generation that's coming up, they're leaving. They're leaving the country. So they are like the likes of our kids and maybe our grandkids. If things continue the way they are, what they're going to do whenever, as soon as they can, is leave. Go to Canada, go to Australia. Go see the world anywhere but here. It seems to be.
yeah,
Um, the politics up here, the big two, it's the same anywhere with divide and conquer. It's always the big two. There's never the big six. If you know what I mean. So up here, you've Sinn Féin and you've the DUP, and they, the media, like the newspapers and the news, they would say that the DUP politicians are arguing with the Sinn Féin politicians about something that's completely and totally meaningless and not in the public interest, and it never is. But this seems to completely saturate our whole news up here, and it's gradually getting worse and worse. But from what we've seen with this pandemic, maybe, or scamdemic, maybe it's going to be a blessing in disguise, because now that the circus of, you know the football and going to the movies and spending money and the gambling and everything that people were doing when they weren't at work, once that ground to a halt and everybody could see alternative news on social media, a lot of people started to ask questions. So hopefully that trend continues. um, Me personally, I would love to see the NI executive completely restructured, completely. From what I can see, now this is my own personal opinion, all I can see from the likes of our health minister, Robin Swan, up here, is he's reading out a script that's being handed to him from Westminster. And as far as I'm concerned, all Westminster is a safe haven for paedophiles. Paedophiles in power. And there's another story that's not in the media, and it should be, is the amount of paedophile politicians being exposed right around the globe. And why would the UK and Ireland be any different? We had the paedophile information exchange, PI
mhm,
for short. This is to give the public some sort of impression that pedophilia is actually a sexuality and not a choice, which is absolutely disgusting. I would never support anything like that. But them sort of things, they were pushed by Labour politicians in England, by Conservative politicians in England years and years ago, and it's all very well and easy forgotten about. Um, the good people of Northern Ireland, they deserve a lot better than just getting the scraps from the likes of the politicians that are in Westminster at the minute. So, maybe the months ahead we are going to see a lot more people on the streets, and maybe issues like that will be dealt with.
Do you think you'd ever throw your hat in the ring yourself in politics?
Nah, no,
No,
no.
you're an honest man. I don't think you'd be easy to corrupt. Like
That's
that's
why
what we need.
I've been no good at it. That's why.
And but that's what we need. I think I wouldn't be corruptible either. And sure, feck it, I took a stab at it. You just have to
Yeah.
go and be honest, like speak the truth, because even if you're not to get elected, like just getting that message to the people, man. The most powerful thing I had when I was running was interacting with people door to door. That for me, just getting that message to the people, just what you were just saying there now, whatever it is that's close to your heart, that makes you want to run, to make a change in our society, more people need to interact with it. I don't know how difficult it is for you to run up there, say, as an independent. Is that something you can do? You don't know?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can?
yeah. You can run as an independent, but um, actually, my father, he actually is a councillor at the minute. But he back in the day, he ran as an independent, and it was very difficult. I done the canvassing with him, and when you're not part of the big two, which is all part of they get all the money, they get all the funding because they are part of the narrative and the agenda. When you're fighting against that and you're on your own as an independent, you will. It's great the support you will get, but it's not going to be enough to get a majority. So, unless you have the likes of maybe Donald Trump's spin doctors behind you,
Yeah.
maybe something like that there, because like see what's happening in America now. When all's said and done after the elections in November over there, you know, what Trump has done this year has to go down as the greatest re-election campaign ever in the history of politics ever. Like,
Do you think he's behind the QAnon? Do you think that's him releasing the information?
I don't know what that is. QAnon, they're coming out with some crazy stuff,
Man, that's
man.
some mad shit.
I follow wee bits here and wee bits there, but the the bit that everybody isn't getting is that they're taking all these wee clips and links and they're taking them all at face value, without actually looking into it. So I think QAnon are saying mad stuff like Tom Hanks is dead.
Oh yeah. There's a load of them are clones now, sure. I think they were saying Biden is a clone as well or something. They were showing
Yeah,
the
well,
air loaves or something.
he's not a very good one if he's a clone, is he?
Well, that's what they're saying. He's malfunctioning at the moment. They need to get their money back.
Oh man, that's bad.
Who's your money on between the two boys, Trump and Biden, in the election?
Trump will walk it. I don't even think
Uh,
Biden will get I don't even think Biden will get the election night. I think he'll concede. It's gonna be it. I think something weird will happen.
but if he
He'll,
concedes, someone else has to run, like from the Blues, isn't it? Blues, yeah. Trump's red.
well, I'm not really a big into American politics. I know
No,
that
me
Bernie
neither.
Sanders had a big following, but that was just
And they
that's just one.
shafted him. They shafted
Yeah,
him.
but then that's just one bad for the other because whenever you look at all the likes of the Democrat Party and the Republican Party in America, the likes of their politicians that have all been arrested the last couple of weeks, the likes of Bernie Sanders, as much as he would maybe be popular with the public, he's still a member of that party, and you're not a big player in a party unless you know what's going on,
Yeah.
so yeah, the politics in America is mad. I can't see anything stopping Team Trump 2020.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there either. I think it's looking more and more like it's going to be him every day. But I suppose back then when that election was happening, I can remember people freaking out the next day after Trump getting elected, like, oh no, the world's going to end or something. Like, I suppose we do have a fucking pandemic now, but
Well, that's it. It was something else. I,
uh,
I remember it. I remember it well.
did you catch the
Watching.
recent pandemic documentary, the Pandemic
No, I
2?
haven't watched it yet.
Ah, shit, yeah, all right, we won't go spoiling that for people.
I haven't watched it yet. I've seen it, and I've seen that it was took down straight away as well.
Yeah, they started blocking the links for it, like, but you get able to get it, all right.
Yeah.
Um,
Aye.
well, I wanted to ask you, I suppose, just to get back onto the topic of what I wanted to grant you, is how are things going with the NI Compassion at the moment? Is you finding it hard over the lockdown? Is everything still flowing away?
The Compassion Club is flying. It's going really, really well. Um, the patients that we have now are now, we're August. Some of the patients that we took on in the new year in February, and then because of lockdowns and stuff, they're starting to get their scans now, and they're getting the results. So the last couple of days, a lot of the patients have been getting in touch with the club with their scan results, and we're absolutely overjoyed with the feedback. In fact, I'd like to give a shout out to Yvonne, who lives in England, who yesterday got the all clear from her bowel cancer. And
Nice.
getting wee messages like that, it really makes it all worthwhile. The social club itself, we were sort of touring vape cafes around the place with our volcano vape and our meds, but that's ground to a halt now because we're back to sort of where we were April, May, where people are sort of not too sure about going out, and things like that. But hopefully we can get that back on track again. We were hoping to actually go to a few different cities, the likes of get up the Derry, up in County London Derry, and maybe even down to Cork, you know.
I'll be
So
more than happy to have you down.
well, this is it. Once sort of all travel restrictions are lifted and that, we'll be able to get the show back on the road, so to speak. But in the background, um, the compassion scheme is going really, really well, and with the pandemic and with people not being able to get out and get to their local CBD shops and things like that, we've found that we've been able to help a lot more people recently, which is also pretty good. So you never know. Hemp, cannabis, it might turn out to be recession proof. We'll have to see in the next few months.
Well, it's certainly going to be a recession buster if the recession's coming. Like I think the cannabis market, if we were to just to regulate it, then man, just so much money, so many jobs, and yeah, that's what I'm trying to get activated down here now at the moment is our farmers because the growing season now it's coming to an end, but there's another one not too far ahead, and
It's harvest time down there.
yeah, it's coming up to harvest time. But our farmers down here are like they're basically at a disadvantage because of the whole prohibition of cannabis. Essentially, they can only grow one of 64 varieties of hemp. So that's different up in the UK. I think you don't, or you might have the same actually regular. Oh no, sure, after leaving, you Brexit, sure. What am I saying? Brexit, you're sorted. You can grow what you want again, but it's all about your man, your man's fucking husband or your one's husband. What's that one? British Sugar?
Oh, why? Yeah, British Sugar and GW Pharma, the Home Office. If you pay the British Home Office enough money, they'll let you grow cannabis out your ears.
Oh yeah, exactly. So you're not restricted over. Well, they're not restricted anyway. Like those well-connected guys and what they can grow, but our
Hmm.
farmers are here, so they can only grow stuff that has up to like 5% CBD. But the terpene profile of them are shocking. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing there of them because the stuff is only for fiber, seeds. That's it. It was never supposed to be for CBD. The fact
yeah,
that I think there's two strains out of 64 that have up to 5% CBD. All the rest of them fall in three and two and one, like and lower,
yeah.
because they're all for just fiber and seeds. But I staged a protest last week where I took some seeds, planted them in a pot, and I went into the local guard station and presented myself for illegally grown cannabis. And I just went in, and the cops didn't know what was going on. They were kind of like, What you do?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's a pot here. It's got some seeds in it, and I
Yeah.
legally planted some cannabis seeds." And yeah, I'm going to see what happens there now with that. Like they have to process it. But
Yeah,
I'd love to get farmers on board with that, like fighting for their right to be able to grow the plant in Ireland. Because again, as you say, man, there's a recession looming, if it's not already here,
yeah.
and a lot of people want and need cannabis.
We all need it, definitely. The hemp farmers, I feel for the hemp farmers as well. Some people think being able to grow hemp is like is brilliant and great, but as you're saying, the quality of the cannabinoids profiles within it, unless you actually have the means to process it, to process that sort of things over and over again, and to scrub it and wash it, filter properly, your CBD level is always going to be as low as hemp
Yeah,
is, So whenever maybe somebody's grew a whole load of hemp and they have say they have a big massive whack of hemp and they see maybe a product in the shop which is high CBD, you know, the hemp that they have doesn't necessarily mean that if you squish it up enough and if you press it enough, you'll get the same sort of quality that you sort of know what I mean.
yeah, yeah. No, definitely. So at the moment, yeah, you're still working with extracts and distillates and stuff for the patients, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. The
Excellent.
majority of our patients are on the distillates. Distillates are they're amazing. They're
And
brilliant.
none of the gardens that you work with were caught up in any of the recent busts and things like that over the last few months, no?
No,
No,
there's been a lot
good.
of up here recently, and the PSNI are putting them all over social media so that everybody knows. That I don't know. I think the message they're trying to push is if you're if you have cannabis, there's a chance you might get caught. But the sort of busts that the police have done up here in the last few months has been big. You know,
Yeah,
they've been black market busts. They haven't. The last time I seen a post from the PSNI that's maybe been somebody's house and maybe a few plants. I can't remember the last time. Now they do post them, but the last few haven't been. They've been big. They've been big busts.
big
Like so.
boss. Did you see the story there with your man? I don't know, is he up north or up close to being north anyway? But he had on his laptop connections with the triads, where he was buying in off the triads and reselling to the is it the UDA or the UVA? One of those guys, the paramilitary guys, anyhow.
Yeah,
But basically, the triads working like two terrorist groups, basically, essentially just working together, importing cannabis of all things. Like,
that's
it's
crazy.
it's
That's
mad.
mad. That's like the Yakuza of the triads,
Oh,
isn't it? That's
yeah, yeah,
that's hardcore Japanese. That's the boys that tattoo themselves, no?
yeah. Well, I was actually up in the hospital yesterday getting an exam being done, and there was a Filipino doctor. I was just chatting away to him about Durorte and the whole drug thing over there. But I brought
Mm.
up this story about like, oh yeah, and the triads are coming in, and he asked me, and he's like, oh, is it the Chinese triads or is it the Japanese one? And I was like, is there two of them? I was like, shit. But like, I didn't know anyway. I just didn't even know that there was two triad groups like from two different areas, whatever.
Shit, is there? Is there
Yeah,
two?
yeah. This is what I didn't know either. Yeah, he said it was the
Right,
Japanese ones or was it Chinese triads, and I was like, shit, yeah.
right.
Like, imagine that. Like, you're buying your Star Dog or whatever it is strain that you're buying. Like, but
Star Dog, yeah.
yeah, Star Dog. Like, but is that coming from these triad boys through the other paramilitary groups? Like this is
Yeah,
why I'm hitting hard on the message for people just to grow their own because with this
yeah,
stuff coming out, like that Encro thing there that came out, like you see the boys who were caught up in that, like they were making millions for years off of the cannabis market,
yeah,
literally
yeah.
like
That's
terrorist
it.
groups.
There's the likes of those big gangsters. Like it's happened to me before in the past where I've went maybe to a dodgy place in the city looking for a bit of cannabis, and they've went, "Aye, there you are, no problem." And then they've tried to sell you heroin or they've tried to sell you crack,
Yeah,
and that's the one thing that definitely does cannabis no favors whatsoever. Getting caught up in serious crime You know, when you're saying things like paramilitaries and triads, you know,
Mm.
that's serious crime, and I would dread to think what's been sitting beside your star dog on its way around the globe. You know, if that's the sort of thing that these guys are able to, like, cannabis stinks. Does like
Yeah,
it really like it smells like it's not as if you can just hide it easy. So
they were
you
hiding it
know,
in vegetables apparently.
you know that's one thing that definitely decriminalization and regulation.
Come here, can I
Will,
ask, what age were you when you first started consuming cannabis?
13,
13. Okay, I was
but
2 years ahead of you. Yeah, 15.
it wasn't bud or nothing. It was like old brown
Hash.
hash. Yeah, the
So
council
far.
hash.
Yeah, happy
Yeah,
days. And you had to burn in.
yeah. Your finger and your thumb. You always knew who had been rolling because your fingers were stinking. Yeah,
Oh, yes.
we used to smoke that in school, but it wasn't until um, actually I smoked that for quite a bit, but it wasn't until I got alopecia, which is a condition where my hair fell out in big patches, and it was on my face as well. Just big patches of hair just went missing, and I went to the doctor, and they said, "Look, it's there's nothing we can do about it. It's stress." But at that time in my life, I didn't feel stressed. It was actually a good point in my life. And what it did, and I told the doctor at the time, now she was in her, she's retired now, years ago, because she was an old lady. But I told her at the time that I smoked hash. And she says, see if you're gonna smoke hash, if you wanna dabble in cannabis, she says, forget about smoking hash. She says, get yourself a plant, grow it, and then eat it.
What a
And I
legend.
looked at her and I says, well, now, this is like 2001. And this is a GP said this to me. And it always stuck with me. So from then on, I switched from smoking hash. I didn't need it. I just started smoking flower, green bud.
Hmm.
But my hair grew back. And looking back on it now, I see that change as maybe the difference, because where oils are concerned and distillates and the medical side of cannabis, there's more quality goodness in the likes of really good soft pressed hash than what you might find in a bit of Stardog or a bit of haze,
Yeah.
So it's strange. It's strange that the different strains are able to treat so many different things differently.
Oh, 'cause they're,
And
they're little chemical factories, like the plant that they can offer such a wide variety of chemo profiles. It's ridiculous the potential there. But like
yeah,
you're going
for
down
sure.
getting it off of somebody who only half knows what they're doing. You might have two choices of strains. Like that's a big issue there at the moment with Alicia Maher, who's stuck in Alicante with
Mhm.
the whole cannabis situation here in Ireland.
Yeah,
She can only get a strain sativa that she thinks is going to excite her nerves and it's going to maybe cause her pain rather than actually reduce her pain.
yeah.
And that's a big issue, and it's very indicative of the plant. Like there's so many of the strains could actually help reduce seizures, but there's some actually could trigger your seizure too. You know,
Hmm.
like it's something that needs to be worked with a professional. Obviously you could buy it on the high street. Once you know what you're going and buying, but it's not like which kind of brings me on to another question I want to ask, and hopefully it's okay if you don't want to answer this one, like, but were you dealing weed or hash, say, before 18, the age of 18, as a younger person, even if it was just buying an extra bit for your one, two friends?
Before the age of 18?
Yeah,
No,
no,
no.
okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, no, I was just curious there because it was something that was easy for me, because I would buy the hash, I would buy an ounce, and I would chop it up into four quarters. But I would get
Right?
the ounce for €90, and sure, I could sell the three quarters to the boys for €30 each, and that covered my thing. And before I
Yeah.
knew it, man, I was a dealer at the age of 16. Like, that was it.
Yeah.
That's how it happened.
I wasn't I know exactly what you're talking about because that's exactly what we all done. But my group of friends, I wasn't the nominated one that had to go and get the ounce. We all
Yeah.
we all used to chip in, and the guy that went and got it, he always got the cheapest bit.
Yeah.
you
You
know.
see,
But
that was my issue. I had actually no connection with any drug dealers at the time. So it was my buddies would get me connected with the drug dealer. So they'd go up, I'd give them the money because none of them worked. My dad
yeah,
got me a job sweeping the bloody warehouse floor and stuff in the windscreens. I was able to, I had a bit of pocket money, like,
yeah,
so like I ended up buying the ounce then for us, like, and sure the boys would pay me at the end of the week when they would get their, it was their FOSS money at the time, fools at school. FOSS, it was the kind of the outreach program or something, I think it was, where
hmm
they basically bribed the boys into going into school. Like I think they gave them like 100 quid a week or 50 quid a week. Like, but the boys were delighted. They just spent it in hash and straight away every week. Like
yeah,
they,
of
they
course.
go, you know,
Yeah,
happy days, boy, happy days.
yeah, those days, memories, fond memories.
Yeah, that's it. Like for us, I suppose we used to get a bit of hash and we go up to one of the boys' gas and we'd just smoke it away and we'd watch on a movie or something. Watch Accelerator there. Do you know? Did you ever see Accelerator with the boys joyriding? No, oh shit, man, throw it on this evening. It's a decent movie.
Accelerator. Oh well,
Yeah,
I'll look it up.
it's very good. All Irish movie. It's all about joyriders. But like we used to watch all these kind of movies, like and just have a few smokes, munchies. But we used to stay out of trouble, man. It was when we didn't have hash and when we were out and about the place drinking,
Mhm.
the trouble we got into. Like it was no one's business. But
Yeah,
yeah, the hash definitely kept us out of trouble, and until it got me into trouble when the cops caught me with it. But anyhow,
yeah, you're a menace to society with that joint in your hand
uh,
there. So this
I've,
is important. I'm I that could be me talking, because anytime I've been in trouble, um, in the past, there's always been alcohol involved, or there's always been prescription drugs involved. There's always been something.
have you
Uh,
ever been caught with cannabis by the authorities?
I have, yes. I was caught with. Thankfully, it was only a tiny amount, and it was only hash. But I denied. I denied it was mine. And when they asked what it was, I challenged them to prove what it was. So I never seen it ever again. They just took it. They just put it in their pocket,
Okay,
you know.
sweet. Lucky
But
you.
it was only a wee bit of hash. I think maybe if it had been a bigger bit, more questions would have been asked.
That's a wee bit like about £10 worth there.
hmm
Yeah,
Yeah,
thereabouts. Yeah.
but that's the advice I would give to anybody if you're stopped by the police, maybe in your car, and it's not even cannabis related. If they start with this, oh, what's that smell, or if they bring it up, don't be engaging and saying, oh, I just use that for a sore back or something, because that's you admitting to having possession of that.
Yeah.
So the best thing to do is just to act stupid. And if anybody
Yeah.
asks you what it is, I would just, at the very, 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 very most, I would just say the word hemp, and then
Mhm.
just sit there with a big stupid look on my face. And if the guard or the PSNI wants to take it any further, they'll either say, right, away you go, or get out of the car. So you're
Yeah, I
better
think I
up with
came
it.
across a good leaflet before by Release, the group there in the
Yeah,
UK. They had a very good leaflet about know your rights when it comes to stop and search by the guard, or not the guards, police. So
yeah,
yeah, I don't know, does it apply here? But again, I think it's just knowing your rights. Like you have a right to privacy. A lot of the
yeah.
times these cops like they come over, oh, I can smell cannabis off you, but like, what qualifies them to be able to say that? Like like, do you know what I mean? Like, we know the terpenes that are available in cannabis can be found in many other things. And you
hmm
just have a fucking perfume on you. Next, he wants to stick his hands in your pockets, and you have a bloody Viagra in there because you're gonna. Do you know what I mean? You're a bit of a limp person, but like, imagine how embarrassing that is. Like,
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It's a lot of it would be the police and the guards. They're trained in a way where they gather information. So they ask you questions to gather information. So if they're saying something like, "I smell cannabis," how can I get this person to admit that they've got cannabis? One of the easiest things to do is say, "Can I smell cannabis? What's that smell? Or do you have any weed? Or have you been smoking today?" And try and engage the person in conversation. Once you've engaged in conversation, it's very easy to get the information you need out of them. So the
yeah,
best thing with the police and the guards is just do not engage in any sort of
Yeah,
anything
like
like that.
above all else, don't smoke in your car. Like, oh man, it's
So,
so hard to hide a smell. Like, oh, it's
well, that's
ridiculous.
rule number one. That's rule number one. Don't smoke in your car.
Yeah, sometimes you can't help it. Like, but man, it lingers for so long.
Yeah,
I went for
yeah,
lunch there last week with one of the buddies for burgers and stuff in town, but we had an old hoot in the car before we went down. But I think it was later on that evening, like it was nearly 6 or 7 o'clock, and I was going down training doing a bit of Thai boxing, and my car was still stinking. Like I was hoping the cops would stop me because I had nothing in my car. I would nothing in there, so I would have had good fun with them.
yeah,
I don't go nowhere these days without my GoPro and my chest yoke on me now, like just so I can catch them for everything because
yeah,
I just don't like them anymore. Like they're not my enemy, but look, they're going to be used against me, so might as well have fun with
yeah.
it.
Well, as I said, there's a few bad apples, but humans are humans, and everybody needs a job. There was a time whenever the police service of Northern Ireland were pushing the reforms and all, and they were trying to recruit and all the rest of it. They had a lot of attractive things going for them, the likes of come and work with the dogs, animals, and train them and stuff like that, which maybe somebody that wouldn't really be interested in that, like sort of police work or something, but that's something that they would be
Would
interested in.
lure 'em in. Yeah.
But nowadays, it's as I said before, the whole establishment needs tore down and restructured and put back up again with the people in mind. A lot
Mm.
of the things that's going on in politics now, it's not in the public interest at all.
Yeah, how far away are you from your next election above?
I'm not sure.
You're
I'm
not
not
sure.
sure. I haven't voted in the last couple, so I don't really pay much attention.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Are you in the sister territory where cannabis is safer than alcohol or something? I think Barry Brown and a few lads were running in that.
That's right. I know Barry. He's a very good lad. Um, I feel a wee bit sorry for the guys that had the passion behind Sister
Hmm.
because um, coming from the part of Northern Ireland that they came from would be a Republican part, and it was very easy for the mainstream media and all the other parties, especially the big two parties that get all the money and get all the funding to push all their propaganda. It was very easy to take that party apart and
Yeah.
to point at their individuals and say, um, maybe there was a maybe there was a guy who was passionate enough about cannabis to stand in his area, and he was being tore apart because maybe he had a drug conviction from like 10 years ago or something. Like I really personally, I don't know the ins and outs of Sista, and what actually happened there. I do know there was a big, I think there was a big whataboutery, a scandal, but I'm not too
And
sure.
they kept
But
forgetting to hand in their bloody files on time and stuff, the tax reports or something, and they kept getting fined. Ah, yeah.
what do you expect from a bunch of stoners, really? Like forgetting to do things. That's
We
that's
were working with them at the time through another group there that I volunteer my time with, but they were trying to set up down south as well at the time, and I was thinking of actually going running for them. But I just didn't like this cannabis is safer than alcohol. It just kind of it seemed a bit like looking down your nose on another group. Like I don't like it when people look down in their nose in our group, so I don't want to judge other people. So what if
yeah,
cannabis is safer than alcohol? Like what's your point? I know what their point is. Obviously, alcohol's legal, cannabis isn't. I know the point, but it's just it doesn't take into consideration that people might feel attacked in that. You
yeah,
could there's other ways of making your point. I don't know that was just one of my reservations around it at the time was the
yeah.
name of it.
Definitely, I get what you mean. Personally, I don't drink, but I used to, and I used to enjoy it, and that is one of the main pastimes of
Mm.
Ireland's famous for it. So if you're going to be a political party and you want to get the public on board, telling them that your wee hippie flower is better than their favorite thing to do.
Yeah.
Maybe wasn't the best thing to do for your party name, but there was good lads there. The likes of Barry Brown. I listened to some of the things that he was saying about cannabis reform, and it made a lot of sense, and still does to
It
this
does,
day.
yeah. Yeah, people try to pick you apart based on their character rather than their arguments because they couldn't argue with them. Basically,
Yeah,
so as you said, like, oh, they come from the Republican area, grand, attack them on that. Whatever it is, just like don't engage with them on their points, on their arguments, because we can't deal with them there. Let's pick them apart in these other things. That's essentially what happens, and
yeah.
that's what's happening down south here even as well. My buddy was on the radio there last week, a big news talk, kind of national radio, and they couldn't find somebody to argue against him on the decriminalization of drugs and the legalization of cannabis. Nobody
Hmm.
was willing to come forward and engage in a nice, rational discussion on the two topics: decriminalization of all drugs and the legalization of cannabis. And
Hmm.
yeah, like the tide is turning. That's what I feel like at the moment. The tide is turning because even now at the moment, I would have no problem with finding numerous people who would be willing to come and have a discussion on the topic of legalization, decriminalization. I would find it very hard at the moment to have somebody to come and take part in a debate
Yeah,
and argue. Let's have a rational debate. Do you know what I mean? You have 5 minutes to argue your point. I'll argue back, and keep it nice and respectful. I'm not going to
hmm,
call you fucking a prohibitionist. You're not going to call me a stoner, druggy, whatever. Like, it's nice and respectful, But nobody's willing to do that because it's very hard to argue against some of our arguments, essentially, when it comes down to it.
yeah.
So, like,
Well, yeah, it's that's I would agree with that. If I was a politician and I was being asked in the debate on cannabis and cannabis legislation, and I had maybe an idea that the people I'd be debating had sat down and done their homework, I'd be scared because, we know the likes of big pharma are sending bills to our health services every month, but nobody knows about it. And, you know, the likes of our NHS in Northern Ireland, if you if you go and get a packet of tablets from your doctor and they're free to you and you go home and go, that's great, it's free. But them tablets are marked per tablet, full price per tablet, not per pack, per tablet by the thousands, and the NHS is billed every month. But all you're hearing on our news from the politicians is always the NHS is skint, it's skint, but they're not actually telling you why. So whenever you hear things like the UK Health Minister, Hancock, whenever you hear things like he actually has his own controlling share in a vaccine company, and that vaccine company is involved in the fast tracking of this so-called COVID-19 vaccine. And then you see the man himself on national TV pushing a vaccine which is going to enrich him by millions and millions of pounds. Whenever you're switched on and you're maybe sitting there saying, that's the same guy that stood and told families to their face only a few months ago that their sick kids would get medicinal cannabis. And here he is 6 months, 12 months later, addressing the nation, telling us all that we'll have to get one of his vaccines. But he's not telling us that it's his vaccine. Do you know what I mean? The whole thing's just a vicious circle, and the
yeah,
people being left behind
seems
are
like
the likes of,
lacks all sorts of transparency.
well, yeah, this is it. The people that seem to be the activists for cannabis seem to be getting more and more. They seem to be turning more and more into normal families that are like looking after special needs, and they'll always be in the minority. And as long as that's happening, it seems to suit the establishment. Not until the general public at large come out onto the streets for cannabis,
Mhm.
it's things are going to stay the way they are.
Yeah, okay. What way are your prisons at the moment in, say, up the north and across the UK? Occupancy wise, are they almost full? Do they have loads of room for prisoners?
Prisoners.
Yeah. Like,
I
as
haven't.
you're saying, you need a lot of people to come out. Like, but when it comes to our community, when we're all on our own, divided, they pick us off, they lock us up for small times, and they threaten us. Your
Yeah,
career, all of this. Like, but if we unite, come together, like, they can't lock us all up. Essentially, is kind of what I make the point of. If we were to all present ourselves like, oh man, I always use the story, like a small little bud, like, something as small as this, like it's enough for a joint or so, whatever.
yeah,
um but like, if you were to put that into a baggie and tie a string onto it and get as many people as possible to hold the string, and we all own ownership of it, you know, like
Aye,
and
right.
and
I'm with you on that.
and
Aye,
then and then you have say you go to a guard a police station and you have a queue of people who want to go in and be processed for it. And let's
yeah,
say you do it on maybe a weekly basis. Let's go down every week there to whatever guard is their police station. And how many of us do we have today? Oh, there's 25 of us. Sweet, 25 people going. That's maybe 5 to 10 minutes per person. I don't know
yeah,
about up in the north or in the UK, but in Ireland, for me, for a joint, I got caught last April of last year. So it was a year and 3 months for them to bring me to the court because there's such a backlog in the paperwork.
right.
So my thing at the moment is I want to make that paperwork even more, and I want to wreck their evidence room. I'm going to fill their evidence rooms with pots with soil and hemp seeds because
Yeah,
they have to keep it all for evidence and have it analyzed. Like when there's a video up there on what the cop says, like he said he's going to send it for analysis and then to be double checked. So it's going to
yeah,
have a reanalysis. Like it's like all
yeah,
right. I told him exactly. I showed him the packet of seeds that the fucking seeds came from. I said they're cannabis seeds. It's illegal what
yeah,
I just done. There you go. Or they'll have to send us for analysis. I was like, no, but like I just told you, there you go. Like, what's wrong with you? But again, like
yeah,
paperwork, like man hours, backlog, you put the small guys on the floor, like on the front line. You busy them up. You tie them up so that they're not out there on the street doing what they should be really doing, which is protecting us from fucking robbers, rapists, murderers, these kind of guys, like
yeah,
the triads and the other kind of unsavory groups in our society.
yeah.
Because there is a hell of a lot of them. We the Kinahans and the Hutches and all that crack that went on down in South there for so long. Like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all fueled by prohibition.
Yeah,
Like, that's what angers and enrages me. That like very soon I could be locked up for my engagement in the protest when I go into a judge and say, Judge, it's a joint. Lock me up for the year. Go for it. Like that's his power. He can lock me up for the year down south for having any amount of cannabis for your personal possession. If it's any bit over that, then it's dealing. It goes into section 3, which is
yeah.
potentially upwards of 10 years plus. But a year in prison, and I'm going to ask the judge to give it to me. I'm going to tell him, and I'm going to yeah, and I'm going to tell him like what he's in for, like because my old owl will wreck his head, like, and like she will bug the shit out of him. I was locked up for 5 days before, and she must have rang the prison about 500 times over the course of the 5 days.
Yeah,
She
yeah.
wrecked their heads. They knew her by like name and everything. Is that you again? um, but again, like
Oh,
it's a year, and it'll be for a joint.
yeah. How long was it? Less than 12 months when you were actually served? When you were actually served your court?
Yeah, more than 12 months.
I think I'll have to double check now, but I know up here, I know now if it's less than 12 months and it's like a misdemeanor, I think it's have
Strike
your
out.
I have your legal team look at it anyway. Whoever's representing you, suggest to them you
Yeah.
weren't it was over 12 months.
Oh yeah, no, there's no statute of limitations for drugs in the South.
Oh
No
man.
statute of limitations. As in like if I fucked off for the next 10 years or 20
Yeah,
years, I come back, they'll still be looking for me on some it's on somebody's desk. Oh, this fella, we never caught him for his joint.
yeah,
It'd be hopefully legalized by then. Like, there's no statute of limitations. I think if you murder somebody, if you leave the country for like 7 or 8 years, I think there's a statute of limitations there.
yeah.
I think it's like 7 or 8 years. I could be wrong again. I'm not an expert at law.
But for a
But
joint, they'll get you. They'll get you.
they'll
Even
get you, man. They'll chase
they'll,
you till
they'll
the end of
bust
the
the
earth.
chapel and they'll go up to the open casket and say, "I got you. You thought you
Uh,
were getting away."
okay, so your system's a bit different up there. So, like, if they don't get you within 12 months, essentially it'll be struck off.
I think now that's as I said, I have to double check it, but I think that's
Okay.
like for misdemeanors. It's for anything that's serious. It would be different.
Hmm. And the misdemeanor is getting caught with a little bit of cannabis, I suppose, in their eyes.
Yeah. Our laws up here, if you're caught with anything up to an ounce, I think you'll just get it confiscated and you'll get a fine. If you're
Okay.
caught with anything more than that, they'll issue a warrant to search your house, and if they find anything that suggests, like, see if you're standing baking cakes all day, and you're maybe caught with a big whack of weed that night, and the cops bust your house. See the scales in your house, that'll put you
Yeah,
away. So
and
it
all the
will, 'cause
flour.
yeah, it just shows them that you have the means of distribution, but that as long as you only have a small bit on your person, and you're not running about like Pablo Escobar, up here you're fine. I seem to have got away with it so far, touch wood, where I haven't actually I haven't actually been asked by the law. A lot of my videos now I'd be smoking freely about the city, but hopefully in their eyes they won't officially say it. But I do know a lot of the constables from the city from walking about, and a lot of it is if you're not bothering the public and you're not making a menace of yourself, the police will leave you alone.
Good, yeah. Well, I hope they don't think that protesting and calling for legalization is making a menace of yourself.
I think things are going to. I would say things are changing in a couple of weeks. There's another Yellow Vest protest planned for Belfast on the Saturday, the 5th of September, and going by the last one, I would say there'd be a lot of police turning up at it. But sure, we'll see what happens.
Okay, is there anything planned for the cannabis community in terms of protests up north?
We're maybe looking at doing something on 710. Because we
7:10.
missed the 420. I know 420 and 710. It's American.
Mhm.
Um, World Cannabis Day is we missed that too. It was in June. World Cannabis Day is in June, so we're maybe thinking maybe do something for the public on the 7th of October. That's 710, isn't it?
7:10, 7th of October, yeah.
Something. But besides that, we don't actually have anything sort of planned in the works. This whole pandemic is just threw a spanner into
Yeah.
everybody's plans.
Yeah, we're looking down south in the moment at maybe 19 the 19th of September to do a little camping trip overnight for people within the Canna community, but also on the 9/20, which is again kind of an American type of thing holiday, but more, actually no, it's actually more of an online holiday than anything. It's around psilocybin mushrooms.
Oh,
So
right, right.
yeah, which is 9/20, so it's mushroom picking season essentially.
920's Mushroom Day.
Yeah, yeah, 9/20. Yeah, the
Well,
20th of September.
I've dabbled with a bit of the is it ayahuasca's on it, the DMT, but I've never had the mushrooms. But I do know that there is a lot of suppressed research that's starting to surface, and psychedelics is going to
Yeah.
end up being better for mental health and well-being than cannabis.
Oh, yes, yeah. No, that's my
Yeah,
next part to call is the decriminalization of the psychedelics. Like for Ireland, it's psilocybin mushrooms for sure. But you've ayahuasca, that's coming from the Amazon rainforest and stuff. There's definitely something to using a medicine that's indigenous to the area that's it's from.
mm,
Again, but when you listen to the experiences of the users of, say, mushrooms and the ayahuasca and all of the different things, there seems to be a crossover of the effects. There's a connectedness, a love and belonging. All of these kind of feelings come out, and otherworldly, godly. All of these are expressed from, say, these natural psychedelic medicines. But
yeah,
I would love to see those back in the hands of professionals because
yeah,
there's a lot of trauma out there that could be healed at the moment with better access to these things.
yeah. I would completely agree. As much as cannabis is good for the likes of PTSD and anxiety and depression, um, proper, microdosing
Yeah.
of things like psychedelics is definitely 100 times worse or better, a hundred
I,
times
I,
better.
I think what cannabis does for mental problems, mental health issues, and things like that was it might just numb something or allow you like a bit of ease with it, but it doesn't address the core of the issue, which psychedelics do. They allow you to dissolve that ego, drop the barrier, and encounter your true self, without all of these filters, all of these masks that we wear every day that we don't realize we're wearing, um,
Yeah,
we lie to ourselves so fucking much, like. Especially men. Like men do it so much. Like with our emotions. Like when we're sad, we try to hide it with anger, and like we don't want to show we're hurt because it's a sign of weakness. Like, but we're lying to ourselves. Like, and we're lying to others around us. Like, but there's a lot of psychological trauma tied up in that. Then
Yeah,
it might have been your dad saying to you when you were a young kid, or your uncle or somebody, like, "Oh, get up and stop crying like a little girl." Boom, it's there subconsciously now for the rest of your life. Crying is a little girl's thing. I'm not a little girl. I'm not going to cry. Fuck you. And next you punch some guy because he said something that upset you, rather than be upset by it and be okay about being upset. Oh, that made me sad. Fair enough. And drive on. That's okay.
yeah.
No, you made me sad, but I'm going to get angry instead. It's a
I
big
would
issue
say
for men.
things like that there. I would see a lot of in the inner city communities where the men in the community, or well, the males, not just grown men, but sort of the males in the community, any sort of public expression of emotion is seen as weakness, and it's pointed out, and it's big girl's blouse, or what are you at, you wee frit, and all this here, carry on. I would see a lot of that happening in the inner cities. And but as it all depends sort of what area you're in. The suicide rate up here is absolutely nuts. It's off the chart, and a lot of our own history, and the likes of that attitude in growing up in maybe these areas. It's there's a lot of questions that aren't being asked, and there's a lot of things that aren't being addressed, and the public need to be made more and more aware of these things.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, there's a lot of stigma there tied up around these things where it's even difficult just to strike up a conversation about it with people because they'll think you're some sort of lunatic. Like
Yeah.
I'll never forget when my girlfriend's mom got sick with cancer at the time. It was breast cancer, and I was just like, "You should grow some plants." I was like, "Just grow some plants." I was like, "Oh, there's this oil you can make from them. Like, just grow them." Like, and oh no, 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 we couldn't be doing that. No, like we couldn't be doing that. And
Yeah.
it just boggled my mind. And then not long after, like a couple of years later, maybe, my uncle, who like fucking, I really looked up to the man, in fairness, like, but he sold hash. Like, as long as I knew him, he sold hash, and I didn't see no wrong in that. But when he got sick, he got cancer as well. It was in the throat or somewhere around there, and
Hmm.
and he wouldn't grow plants and make oil. And I was like, but like, you're selling hash. I was just like, what's the problem? Like, oh no, no, we couldn't be doing that. Like, and he went in, and like, sadly, like fucking he passed away afterwards. Like, but I think it was more the doctors, what they done to him. Like, they chopped him up, like literally they took away half his face. Like the guy was a small enough guy as it was, like he probably was maybe 10 stone or maybe less, before all of this, like getting sick and everything.
Yeah.
Because like, not to go too deep into it, like, but he grew up in where he was probably sent to a home, and I think there was some abuse there from priests and shit, like from his early childhood, and he masked that with addiction, like alcoholism and other drugs and things like that. But like, man, it was just it boggled my mind, this mentality where he just listened to the guy in the white coat. He allowed him to chop him up, like,
Hmm.
and he wouldn't, like, okay, like I was his nephew. I was what age was I at the time? Maybe 20-ish, 20, maybe early 20s. I
Yeah.
was young enough, like, but he didn't listen to me, like, and I can't help but feel like even now, like I must have sounded like some fucking raving lunatic like that. Oh yeah, there's cannabis, and it could help with your cancer, like, It
Yeah.
was the Rick Simpson documentary that I was after watching that inspired me so much to really get passionate behind this. Like, but my uncle
Hmm.
knew this too. Like, he seen that documentary as well, but he still allowed those doctors, man, do their thing with him, and he just had no
Yeah.
fight. He'd no fight in him for fighting for a proper medicine. It killed me. Like, still to this day, like, it still hangs and lingers with me. Just thinking,
Yeah.
what could it possibly been if we try
Yeah.
things a
Well,
bit differently?
people are. It's sad, and I suppose you don't really know how it feels until you're in that situation yourself. But the likes of working with the Compassion Club up here, we'll get messages from people, and it'll be my relative needs this oil,
Mm,
and what we're finding is the relative not always wants it, you know. So we've come across it before where maybe somebody is approaching their relative that maybe has cancer, and they're saying, look, we've got this oil for you here, take this, blah, and they won't take it because it's, you know, cannabis is frowned upon and it's a drug. And then on top of that, if they're going into their medical team and their doctors and they're saying, listen, what about cannabis oil? Majority of the doctors are saying, if, you know, if it's bad, if it's cancerous and all the rest of it, they're saying, look, at this stage, it couldn't make things any worse, which is more or less what the doctors are saying up here. But see, the patients that are turning down chemotherapy, they're being told, if you turn down the chemotherapy and you're taking cannabis oil, we're going to cut you off. We're going to take you off treatment altogether, which
Okay.
isn't, you know, it's not right, because the people that are elderly in our community now, they're, you know, when you're talking about predictive programming on the TV and brainwashing and, you know, all the adverts on your smartphone, you know, these people have had the TV, you know, they've been believing things on their TV since it started, and their doctor is the only person that they're trusting with their health. And, you know, to just come down there and say, oh, here, there's this oil, you take that and everything will be sweet. It's a big secret, don't worry about it. You know, it's very difficult for people to sort of come around to that as well. But it is happening. It is happening. And whenever a more older person in the community does give us a bit of feedback saying, you know, you've changed my mind, it makes it all worthwhile, and it is happening.
Well, I think it's only thank greatly because of people like yourself and the other activists who would have came before you. You know, even down south, we've had many people who would have put cannabis on the map. You know, like the time I was talking about would have been about 10 years ago now with my uncle.
Mhm.
So I think things have changed greatly now. Like I reckon if my uncle was still around today, that he would be grown. Like I would have convinced him by now to have grown. It was just 10 years ago. It was just that such a big leap.
Yeah,
Whereas now, like again, as I say, like no times the people like yourself, like who bang this drum and get the message out there, let make people aware of the potentials of that cannabis can offer to people, and how they're being denied it through like these boys in the government and what they're doing, like with your one and her husband and all of the shady deals. Like the longer
yeah,
we keep banging that drum, I think the closer we're going to keep going to legalization the day of it. So
yeah.
I
Thanks, Mark.
think,
Appreciate that.
yeah, I think that's a good point to wrap it up there. So, because I know you only got 45 minutes from your missus, and we've probably gone over
No
that.
worries. That's fine.
But
It's been a pleasure.
is there anything you want to add on or anything like that at the end? You good?
Yeah, just before I go, not really
Yeah.
cannabis related, but it's a big, massive story in Northern Ireland at the moment. Um, there was a young boy called Noah Donahue. Um, in June, he left his house and he went missing. And at the end of the week, he was found dead. His mother is still looking for answers, and somebody somewhere, or persons within the police service of Northern Ireland, um, are putting roadblocks and all sorts of obstacles in the way for this poor woman to find out what actually happened to her son. So before I go, if you don't mind, I'd just like to say hashtag justice for Noah and hashtag remember my Noah. Um, Please look out for these hashtags on your social media and support cause. Fiona Donahue needs answers, and hopefully we can get them.
Yeah, brilliant. I'm glad you brought that up because I'd only just before you came on, I seen you shared a post there where the BBC have gotten access to CCTV footage that the mother of the child and her investigation team, like the PSNI, have been unable to do. So
Yeah, they haven't.
that's
She's been asking to view the CCTV, the conflicting stories of what actually happened to the lad. Um, there's there's questions now being raised, and now even the fact the BBC, we're not fans of anyway, but the fact that they even have the front to put CCTV footage in their news piece and air it across the nation, And the news piece itself only really is the story that the public are now shouting for information to be given to the family. Um, I was appalled. Yes, I'm happy that the case is now being looked at and there is some sort of acknowledgement from the mainstream media, but it's come after a lot of hard work and pressure from the public, So the BBC need to have a really good look at themselves, and if they have any sort of information about this lad, they need to be contacting the family directly.
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, it makes more sense. I know there was an issue down here very close to a family member of my own, that I know, and there was a murder, and they had information up on TV3 news before any of the family were even
Hmm.
aware that the murder had even taken place and things like that, with names being released and like
Hmm.
very insensitive, like some of these guys in the media, like for what, a bit of clickbait articles, like just to get there ahead of somebody else, like.
Yeah, exactly. Clickbait is a good point to make there. The BBC seem to be very fond of that, especially on the likes of social media. So if they're not going to do a proper report on it, I don't see why they can get away with things like this.
Yeah, I think they have a lot to be afraid of when it comes to social media and stuff, and the likes of people like yourself getting out there, because I think more people want to listen to people like yourself and maybe myself, because we speak a lot more truth than what the
Hmm.
mainstream is. Like, we might talk a bit of waffle in between it, like, but like we speak a lot of truth, and we're
Yeah.
not afraid of. We don't have any of these big parties. Like the amount of sponsorship that the big media gets from pharmaceuticals, like
Hmm.
it's a lot.
It's nuts, and the alcohol industry, they're at it as well. They're pumping thousands and thousands in the anti-cannabis propaganda and leaflets coming through your door. And there was one came through a couple of years ago. It came through the front door. Everywhere was canvassed, and it was drugs. And you opened it, and it was cocaine. And it was awareness and stuff. And see the middle of the leaflet, it was the double page middle bit. It was cannabis, and it was all about the dangers of cannabis. And it was dismissed. It was only like 2 years ago, and
Yeah.
I couldn't. But I complained. I took it back. I sent it back and complained, but I never heard no more about it. But that just shows you every now and again, whenever maybe you think the cannabis drum's starting to make some noise, there's a wee movement here or there, a wee subtle thing from the government that maybe not everybody catches on, but a wee leaflet drop around everybody's house,
It's
and
not
no,
cheap.
yeah, it's not cheap, exactly, and it gets your message across, and nobody's gonna question it because it says gov.com at the bottom of it,
There you
you know.
go.
But yet maybe it's been Budweiser or Guinness has funded it.
Yeah. Gov.com, but like only peddling the government's message because they fired or forcefully made him resign. I think it was Professor David Nutt, um,
Hmm.
who actually has a podcast out now as well, Drug Policy Science or something like that. I can't remember. I just started listening to it recently, like, but it's a good one to have on. So again, like another ally there in banging this drum to fight these silly prohibitions that we have in place.
Definitely, Mr. Nuts. He's a legend, especially over in England. The amount of families that are looking after special needs and vulnerable, the information that he's able to give to them, and he's so easily approachable. Yeah, the guy's a legend, definitely.
Yes, yeah, and much like yourself, man. So, like that. But before we go on any more tangents on that, it's been a pleasure, and thanks very much for your time, Alan. Man, I really do appreciate it.
No worries, Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks very
Yeah,
much.
definitely, and hopefully see you soon. Yeah,
Well, indeed, mate. Stay medicated. Thank you.
peace, namaste.